Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Virtual Tasting Society. I am not Vadim Perlavsky. I am Jane Kilkenny. I'm sitting in for him this evening. With us tonight is David Schmier of Proof and Wood. Just a reminder, welcome to everyone who's been here before. You know the drill. Please stay on mute so we don't have to deal with background dog and barking and crazy people noises. Please feel free to unmute and ask questions, put things in the chat. We're here to get nerdy and learn things about Proof and Wood. With that, David, please take it away.
Good evening. Thanks you guys for taking the time to do this. I guess we'll go through a bunch of our different whiskeys and talk about what goes into them and really anything you guys want to talk about. I think I have the chat up. And so feel free to jump in here or ask questions on the chat, or any comments are welcome. Why don't we start by pouring some roulette rye if you guys haven't already done that. And we'll taste that, and I'll talk a little bit about Proof and Wood, but figured it'd be better for you guys to have something in a glass before I start pouring you.
I think that's always appreciated. Yeah.
So roulette rye is probably the best value that we have in the portfolio. What roulette rye it is, all 95% rye, 5% barley, all distilled in Indiana in the distillery currently known as MGP. It used to be the old Seagram's distillery, and I can attest to the fact that they distill great rye whiskey. So this is all a minimum of 4 years old and 100 proof. Retails about $30 a bottle. Works really well as a rye sipper. It's got all the characteristics of rye that you're looking for and then some. But its real purpose in life is to be the beginning of a great cocktail. So with all that flavor and at 100 proof, it will stand up to pretty much anything. Great Manhattans, great Sazeracs. You can do an old fashioned with it if you choose, but kind of anything from there, it's made so you can taste the rye in a cocktail. So, Proof and Wood founded Proof and Wood in 2015, right after myself and my partner in Redemption sold the brand to a bigger company. And I started Proof and Wood to kind of continue some of the things I've been doing and explore some new areas. The name of the company comes from the idea that Proof and Wood is not a distiller. We don't distill, nor do we have any short-term plans to do that. We proudly source whiskey from all over America and some parts of the world. And while we don't control the distilling process, we have control over the age, the wood, time in the wood, and the proof in the bottle, which also alters the flavor profile. And you guys have any comments on the roulette before we move on?
I've gotten a lot of mint and dill notes on it that I find really interesting.
That is a signature of the distillery, those mint and dill notes, and they come at you in different ways, sometimes just depending on the barrel, but also on the age. So they're gonna really pop at 4 years old, and you'll taste that.
Yeah, you mentioned there's a lot of people bottling at this, but I think what stands apart for you is that little extra bit of proof that really helps it just kind of kick up the notes a little bit more and keep it at the same price point for people that are doing it at 80 and at 90.
Yeah, the goal is to really put a quality product in a fair price in every bottle. Sometimes we achieve that well. Sometimes we put really good stuff in a bottle and charge you a fortune, but we're trying to balance that. So kind of along the notes of kind of what we're about in Proof and Wood and what we have control of, the next pour I want you guys to try is the Senator. I got my bottle here. So again, the Roulette, 95% rye, 4 years old, 100 proof. The Senator, and generally we do stuff in small batches, about 20 barrels or less at a time. I'm not sure if you guys have a batch bottle of the Senator or a single barrel. But our batches are generally 20 barrels or less, and the single barrels obviously are 1 barrel. And the single barrels, the proof points generally range between 105 and 118 or so. But the Senator is all minimum of 6 years old, the same rye whiskey that's in the Roulette rye. So do you guys have the proof point on your samples?
We are at 53.9%.
Okay, it's kind of on the lower side, but so we're 53.9, so about 108 proof. So you can see the difference. Really, the bigger impact here is the age, but the proof really helps deliver that punch. What I've found, and I've worked with this rye for a long time, that between 6 and 10 years old, you get really great maturity, really fantastic balance between the flavors of the whiskey and the flavors of the wood. And you know, you get all those notes in there. The richness from the wood as well as the spice from the rye. What I find when you get older than that, you sometimes get a more elegant spirit with more wood flavor, but you lose in that process a lot of the flavors of the spirit. So maybe it, you know, you're not sure if it's bourbon or rye when it gets much older, depending on how it's aging. So the Senator, again, is 95% rye, 6 years old, and this one's 108.
So the main difference between the two, they're both MGP, but the main difference is the aging, the time in barrel.
Yeah. So the first one, the minimum age in Roulette is 4, and the minimum age in the Senator is 6. And you can see the difference that provides. It's a fuller, more rounded whiskey. You know, you can make a great cocktail with it, but again, this one primarily, I like to drink this way. Neat. Cheers, everybody. The Senator typically has a strong, powerful finish as well. And you should still be able to detect the dill and mint in there, but they're more subdued when they get older.
The Senator is really good. My son is drinking one of our 2 samples. I saved the sample bottles because we had an open bottle and I thought, I'll just drink our bottle. Because we have a barrel proof, and while I'm not a proof chaser, this is really a good bottle. And I put it in the chat. We have the bottle we have has both rye and barley. Is that typical for all Senator?
Yeah. So the standard, the heart of a lot of the whiskeys that we've had in the past and currently, the future will be slightly different, is a lot of MGP whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
And the 3 core mash bills are the 75% corn bourbon, which has 21% rye. Well, it's got a nice flavor to it from that rye. That 75% corn gives it more of a traditional, sweeter corn forward bourbon flavor. The other mash bill, which we have in the tumbling dice, is the 60% corn, 36% rye, 4% barley. We refer to that one as heavy rye or high rye.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the 3 kind of predominant mash bills that we play with in the core range, at least.
The Senator is really one of my favorites for straight rye.
Yeah, and it's probably more noticeable in the tumbling dice when we get to that. But with barrel proof, a lot of people will taste the barrel proof and not realize how high the proof is till they actually look at the bottle. And it's kind of interesting when you see a well-made whiskey. It's very counterintuitive sometimes. And one of the reasons is that they're full of flavor. And we're not adding any water to dilute that flavor. So that flavor is coating your whole mouth and you're not noticing any heat till it starts going down your throat. And you might feel it there. And you'll certainly feel it an hour later if you've been drinking enough and you try to stand up.
Well, I'm very happy the Senator is at High Times, which is where I go buy my whiskey. So it's on my High Times wish list. I really liked it.
Cool. Yeah, we've got, the normal, the everyday, if you will, bottling of that is generally about 20 barrels that we try to balance with all those flavors. And then we pick a bunch of single barrels that'll be floating around. All right, so what else do we have? Where should we go? Let's try the Stranger.
Okay, so I don't have the bottles, I just have the Dean's labels, which were the Tumbling Dice Bourbon and Rye, the Polish with rye, and
Here's
the
the
cross
Polish.
border. So is that the Polish?
Yep,
Okay.
the Polish is the Stranger.
Okay. There we go. Now I've got it.
And we think about the Stranger as you're not from around here, are you, stranger? It is a Polish rye whiskey that made its way to Kentucky. And the story that I know of this rye, it was distilled in Poland by a relatively small distillery out there. And there's a lot of rye grown in Poland, and they use quite a bit of it to make vodka and plenty of bread. There hasn't been a lot of whiskey made there. This small distillery made a whole bunch of whiskey, and then they shut down. Actually moved to Florida, but the whiskey itself was aging in French oak barrels, was shipped in bulk to Kentucky, where it was put into bourbon barrels. So, and it was aged a total of about 8 years doing that. We finished it in American rye for about 4 weeks as well to kind of mellow it out a little bit. There's some really cool, obviously you're getting a lot of rye notes. You're also picking up some more of the sweet bourbon notes from sitting in those barrels for so long. And there's some other notes in there that I still can't identify, kind of funky notes and things like that. It's a real interesting rye, really well made, but a little bit different.
I get pepper.
Definitely pepper on the end and on the end of the palate. Definitely pepper.
I get a lot of earthiness on the nose.
I get barnwood and pumpernickel.
On the nose, Jason?
Yep.
Yep, on the nose, I do get, it's interesting that you said barnwood, because I don't necessarily smell, I don't know what barnwood is.
But when we don't know what something is, we just nod our head yes and pretend we know. But that's very bold, actually admitting that you don't know the flavor.
You just say interesting while you're doing it. Interesting.
There you go.
But I would say,
now this is a master class.
but
I
I
get
would
like a little
say
like
that,
wet hay.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that, wet grass, wet hay,
Wet hay.
and barnwood. I do know what barnwood is, so yeah, I get it.
I mean, I've
and
been in a barn.
Well, you've missed out. I get the bourbon notes too, the sweet brown sugar.
Yeah, they're kind of right there, and then
They're right in the front.
Over.
I mean, in the palate, I mean, then, I haven't gotten there yet, but the nose is very interesting, and it's probably due to what it's been aged in, because it's very different from the first two.
It's definitely a lot sweeter.
Mm.
Get a lot of the burnt sugar notes out of the bourbon.
There is.
Yeah, but there
burnt
is kind of
sugar.
a funkiness at the front of it.
There it is. I have chewed pencils.
Sorry, it kind of smells like wet
Yeah,
dog.
that's random.
No, I think it's because I'm in education, so there you got the chewed pencils. That's probably the barnwood that Jason came up with.
Is that a positive or a negative
I-
chewed pencils?
I
Oh,
wasn't drinking all day. Those are chewed pencils you're smelling. I think positive we're taking out of that.
maybe it's just too much work.
Yeah, on the palate, it's very toffee and mocha.
Oh, I don't get the mocha, Jason. Very interesting.
It's
Maybe
not like the drink, it's like the powder mix.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
have a drop of water.
Yeah, I
Okay.
get that a little mocha note in there too, like that. But
Yeah.
like not like actual like mocha, like the powder they put on truffles.
On
Yeah.
the, like, on the top, Amanda?
A little bit, yeah. That's what
I
It's like
think
mid- it's like-
also this was bottled at about 105 proof.
Yeah, it's 52.5 ABV.
Yeah, we
So-
brought it down a little bit to take some of the edge off of it, and we also mellowed it in the American rye barrels to just make it that much more accessible.
David, what's the price point on this?
That one will be like 75, 80.
That's a good price point.
I like it. I
This is-
really do.
This
nice.
this is good. I do get the, I'm not sure I get like a heavy mocha, but I like what Amanda says, like what you sprinkle on top of a chocolate candy, definitely. Like just enough to get a hint.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not really cocoa powder because it's a little
Oh.
sweeter than that, but
Again, these are all right answers, and there's a little even for me, there's a little bit of elusiveness about what's going on in there,
Mhm.
but it's kind of what makes it so much fun. The Stranger is bottled under the Proof and Wood curated collection, which is generally stuff that we don't really have a lot of, that we're just having some fun with.
Mm.
And so it's really cool when I can get some interesting products that we can bottle and just play around with and have fun. Jason, thank you for posting a link to the bottle. We did 2 batches of the Stranger. There's a 7-year-old and an 8-year-old. They're very similar in flavor profile. And the 8-year-old that we bottled is the last of the Polish rye that we have at all. There were, I think, 12 other barrels that we finished in Jamaican rum that will be hitting the market in the next month, and that's going to be called the Globe. And that's the 8-year-old Polish rye in Jamaican rum barrels for about a year. That's a lot of fun.
Mickey needs a chaperone.
I don't think Mickey needs a chaperone.
I'm joking.
Just get a
Oh, I
big,
totally need a chaperone in a liquor store.
big
No,
shopping.
I do
Yeah.
too, because Alec will absolutely, this is why I will send somebody like Lori who will bring me back 1 bottle, because I walk into a liquor store and ask my husband what happens.
chaperone
It's
partner
worse
in
than
crime, whatever.
Tiffany. It's worse than Tiffany's.
Yeah, Mickey, I think have a chaperone from this group would probably be the wrong choice.
Here, I
Come
helped
on,
you.
you
I
know,
filled
we
the
all
floor.
want to volunteer as tribute.
You
Oh, yeah,
know,
I'll be there.
you know, you
I'll
think
help her
about
out.
Lori, if you think about it, an actual necklace at Tiffany's, many are only $100.
Oh, gosh, I spent more than
Exactly.
that.
And
I'm
I get
telling
more
you,
pleasure out of my liquor.
Yeah, I'd rather have whiskey
Right?
than joy.
I'd rather have the liquor.
right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Hey,
many
this
of
is-
the Sterling are like 125 or whatever.
This is why you ladies rock. We love you.
I I'd
No.
rather have whiskey than.
That's
whiskey
David's
only,
new
nice.
marketing campaign.
So what
That's
happens
what
girls.
is you buy the whiskey, you drink the whiskey, and then you go drunk shopping online, and that's where
Amazon, yeah.
Tiffany's comes in, and
See, I do that, but I
Just
buy
buy more
knives,
whiskey.
so-
that's good too. We support that. That idea is endorsed.
That's actually how I got $1,000 barbecue, because my brother used to drunk shop. He gave it to me because he lived in a condo with no balcony.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So the senator, whatever's out right now is what's left of it? Is that
Pardon?
what-
No,
The,
no,
Stranger.
that's the stranger.
the stranger, okay, sorry,
Yeah,
the stranger.
the senator is part of our core line in the DC collection.
Okay,
And a little note on that, and it's kind of the fun part about this business is I've worked with some really great people throughout the years. And the DC collection started a few years back when my DC distributor came to me and said, "Hey, I grew up in DC, lived here most of my life. No matter who is elected, the inauguration is always a great party. And that's what DC is about, hospitality and having a good time." And he asked me if I can find a 4-year-old barrel of whiskey and an 8-year-old barrel of whiskey and call them 1-term and 2-term. So we launched the presidential dram, which we now do every 4 years during presidential season. And that was a DC only project the first year we did it, really successful. And then the following presidential cycle, we did it nationwide, and it's been one of our core offerings. And then as that sort of evolved naturally, we had some 12-year-old bourbon, which was very small batches. We called that the Ambassador under that kind of same DC collection. We did a 14-year-old Tennessee bourbon and then a 16-year-old Tennessee bourbon. Those were bottled as a Justice. And then last year, we did a small batch of bourbon and rye, or a boo rye, called the Cabinet. So we had the different whiskeys kind of coming together. And the Senator is always available, and its companion, the Representative, which is a bourbon. Representative just won World Whiskey Awards, best bourbon in the world, which is kind of cool. But what I like to say about the Senator and the Representative is they're always for sale, like their named counterparts. And that's as political as I'll get.
there you go.
So David, do you have a favorite of those?
Of which?
Of the group that you're just talking about, all those different, like that lineup?
Do I have a favorite? Probably the first batch of the Ambassador was my favorite. Is I think about 8 barrels, but we got a really good balance between some heavily wooded barrels and some really sweet barrels. So it really balanced out right. And 12 years, good 12-year-old MGP bourbon is really, really solid.
Heck yeah, right on. Thank you.
You mentioned Boo Rye. Is that like a nickname for a bourbon rye, or
A blend of bourbon and rye. So different than talking about a mash bill. We take distilled barrels of bourbon, distilled barrels of rye, and mingle them together. So the Cabinet is very rye forward, but it brings in the sweetness of the bourbon to kind of create a new taste.
I didn't hear if you gave percentages for that. Is it kind of after it's together, it's like a high rye?
I would say this one's probably, if you were to break it down by mash bill and quantity, it's probably still a rye.
Okay. Thank you.
There's probably 75% rye whiskey and 25% bourbon in there. That was DC only last year. It'll be nationwide this year. Yeah, we got you covered.
Awesome. So, okay, so I guess that I mixed up the two. So the stranger is the Polish rye then.
Correct.
Okay, so now is that that's the one I meant to ask about. So that's the one that you have whatever you've got of that is out and that's it?
Yep. Yeah, and since the distillery in Poland closed down, there will be no more.
Okay. Because everyone here will be shocked, but I like this one. I'm not normally a rye fan, and I was kind of like, oh, of course I like the one that is going to go away.
Well, we've got plenty other things for
Yeah,
you.
so
On that note, let's move on to the cross-border jackpot.
okay.
And so this is kind of this is just a really fun project. Finding different whiskeys that are available out there and seeing how to make them better than when they're just on their own. So with cross-border jackpot, what we did was we took 3 whiskeys and all the 7s will tell you that they're all 7 years old. There is an American rye. It's the same 95.5 rye from the Senator and Roulette, except it's 7 years old. There's a Canadian rye. It's a rye whiskey made with 91% rye. And I think 9% corn, giving some different flavor profiles. And then the third whiskey is also a 7-year-old whiskey. It is a Canadian blended whiskey, and that blended whiskey is about 97% corn. So it's really a light corn whiskey, which is a great kind of canvas for the flavors of the rye to pop off of. And so that is what you have in cross-border jackpot.
It's creamy for a rye.
Yeah, so that's probably coming from the corn whiskey.
And it doesn't smell like a rye. I would never guess this. It smells more like a corn whiskey to me, which is not my favorite, but I really like this.
Yeah, it absolutely smells like a corn whiskey. It smells sweet.
So how many different whiskeys do you put into this one when you said cross borders? You're getting from different places to blend it?
Right. So there's 3 different whiskeys in there.
Okay.
There's the American rye, the Canadian rye, and then the Canadian blended.
That's really
pretty-
interesting.
It's pretty sweet.
With that high proof on the Canadian whiskey, so that was their high wines, and you kind of do like a blended Scotch, kind of using the high wines as your base, and then building all your flavor on it.
High wines. I don't know if that's the right analogy, but yes, it does go back to, that's a good way to put it, the Scottish whiskey. From the standpoint, like a blended Scotch has got a lot of grain whiskey as the base of it, and the flavors are coming from the single malt. So there's the same kind of approach where the probably about 40% of the blend is that corn whiskey, and then we're bringing the spices from the rye in there. Makes it a little bit of fun.
I gotta tell you, I'm kind of surprised I actually really love this. It's sweet. It's really nice. It's I got cornbread right off the top.
Oh, I'm glad you liked it. And that's kind of what we try to do. Like, the blended whiskey on its own, it's well made, but it's very one dimensional. And by bringing the rye in, we're creating some new flavors and just a lot more fun.
I love cornbread, so, saying that I was cornbread wasn't a negative thing. It was a positive.
That's okay. Could be negative or positive.
Do you choose the same types of whiskey to make this every time, or is this something that's going to change as stock is available?
That is a good question. And this particular bottling, I think we're going to do an 8-year-old version this year. That's going to be pretty similar, the same 3 products, but there are some of the blends that we're changing based on availability as well. Like we did, I think 3 years ago, we did something called 100 Seasons, which was a 25-year-old American light whiskey. And then we didn't have any more of that left. So we did a bottling called Seasons 2021, which was a blend based on some 18-year-old Tennessee bourbon that we have. And once that's gone, well, we have no more 18-year-old Tennessee bourbon. So the next version of Seasons is going to be something completely different. But there will be some components of old whiskey and some blending going on.
Sounds really interesting, and look forward
Yeah.
to reading it.
So things like cross-border jackpot is really a small part of what we do, but it's one of the most fun things that we do. So primarily we're doing straight rye, straight bourbon, but it's good to have fun and play with our whiskey.
You're giving me ideas. I'm gonna go through my bar and start blending some Canadian and some rye and see what I come up with.
You can't go wrong. And if you do go wrong, you can mix it.
Right?
Little-
Always,
little-
man. You turn it into a cocktail of some sort, right?
Little ginger beer will fix anything.
It reminds me of have you ever had the Mr. Sam release that I think it's Sazerac does? I'm not sure, but it's a blend of a lot of different things and it's really complex and pretty interesting.
Yeah, I've had it once. And yeah, it is really interesting. And the history behind it is really cool as well, because Mr. Sam is a reference to Sam Bronfman from Seagram's. One of the ones that we've done that's one of my favorite bottlings is a blend called Vertigo, and that one has as the base of it the 25-year-old American light whiskey, some 8 and 9-year-old rye whiskey, some 6-year-old bourbon, and then some 12-year-old light whiskey to round it out. And it's in that same world of just really, really fun, elegant whiskeys doing real kinds of different stuff.
Yeah, just
Do you have-
go ahead, Kevin.
Oh, I was gonna ask a stupid question. I was gonna say, do you have any other like fun names in the works or ideas for names going off like the whole DC thing? Like I was just thinking like with the whole State of the Union, they have one, or they have a person like the designated survivor. If you ever had some like super rare or super, I don't know, hard to find. I don't know. Do you have any other fun names in the works?
I'm stealing that name, Kevin. I don't know if I'm ever gonna use it, but you're on notice and I'm stealing it. In the DC collection, I don't think we have anything coming up with that. There's been some thoughts along those lines. One product that we have coming out later this year is going to be called Bouillabaisse, and that's kind of a blend of some leftover whiskeys that I've had that I've blended together and aged.
Nice. That's cool.
And leftover whiskey, it's kind of like hot dogs and buns come in different numbers, and sometimes we don't have enough glass to fill what we've blended, so we have tanks of excess whiskey hanging out. And so I'm trying to balance them. That'll be bouillabaisse.
I like that.
I think that's that's so awesome. You just have to. Kevin just wants a bottle. When you do the designated survivor, you got to send him one.
I want,
Yeah,
no,
hey.
I want one too.
I might be on the East Coast, so
Bouillabaisse,
I'll
come
come in
on.
and see you in DC or something.
I only eat fish. It's only appropriate.
There you go. Never order the bouillabaisse on Monday though.
Some people may not understand that joke.
It's a dish with a bunch of different fish in it, and some people will say it's intentionally made. Other people will talk about how it's what's ever left over. So if you're getting it on Monday, it's all the fish they didn't sell over the weekend.
It's the same with sushi. You never want to order sushi on Monday.
Unless you really trust them.
So I think it's so good. Jane put in the chat that Mission still has some of that vertigo you're talking about. Sounds like fun.
Yeah, and that will never appear that we don't have any more 25-year-old light whiskey, and I don't think we will have any anytime soon. Any additional comments, questions on cross-border?
Jane, are we gonna do a poll at some point before the tumbling dice or after? Jane,
She's wandered off.
Yeah, I think I mean we'll probably do it at the end for this one, I would guess. Hey, sorry, Dave, did you say that that the cross borders had the you mentioned it was the Canadian, was it light whiskey that was in that?
It's not. It's very similar to light whiskey.
Okay.
It's 95% Canadian. 97% corn. It's distilled at a really high proof and put into used cooperage. So it's very. I mean, the same basic characteristics of American light whiskey. With blended Canadian, they generally distill the grains separately and then blend them together before they put it in the barrel. But really it's at 97% corn. I think there's a little bit of rye and a little bit of barley in there, but predominantly corn.
Yeah, that the Canadian whiskey definitely comes through on that cross borders. I dig it. Thank you, man.
Welcome. We also bottled some 21-year-old Canadian. That'll be out there as Good Day. If you have it, interest in drinking the best black velvet you've ever had. Okay. Are we just down to the tumbling dice?
Correct.
Cool.
The bourbon and the rye.
I think you just have the bourbon of tumbling dice, correct?
The bourbon and the rye. We've
You
got the
have
bourbon
both.
and the rye.
You have a tumbling dice rye?
Correct.
Well, I did not realize that.
Vadim hooked us up properly.
What's that?
Vadim hooked us up properly.
Okay. So let's do the tumbling dice bourbon first then. And I apologize, I do not have the notes. Do you know what your tumbling dice you guys got? Probably a 6-year-old.
Doesn't
It's
say, but the proof is
59.55.
57. Huh?
It's the AB is 59.55.
That's
Fairly
the
high.
bourbon.
That's what we're drinking.
Okay. Never mind.
Right. So I'm pretty sure it's a 6-year-old. the Tumbling Dice bourbon mash bill is probably my favorite bourbon. It's got 60% corn, 36% rye, about 4% barley. And what I love about it, that the corn gives you that sweet backbone base of bourbon, and all that rye kind of brings a tremendous amount of flavor. And depending on where it hits your tongue, you'll get the sweetness of the bourbon in the background and the rye flavors in front of it. And sometimes you'll pick up the rye flavors in the background, and that highlights the sweetness of the corn.
Yeah, the Tumbling Dice bourbon is killer. I originally got a bottle of the 4-year, killed that, and then Village Liquor out here had a pick of it, and I think it was a 6-year, and oh my gosh, so good, so good.
Yeah,
I got that same store pick.
That was the pick I was talking about that Lori got me, right, Lori?
No, that was the high rye, but it was the Tumbling Dice Village Liquor Store pick. Yeah. He had both of them, I think.
Do you guys age it anywhere else besides where you get it from, or is it kind of pulled out of there and then dumped? Because yeah, it's really good.
We age, it'll generally be up in Indiana for a little bit, but most of our barrels are aging in Kentucky. There's a lot of variables. It's sometimes hard to pinpoint what's affecting it, how. We just taste them and bottle what we like. But the Indiana warehouses tend to be these old giant brick structures that tend to have more steady temperature control in them. In Kentucky, we're kind of in a old wooden structure that gets a lot more exposure to the elements, which can be helpful. So again, the great mash bill, it really, I think it peaks between 6 and 8 years old, but we've had some great 4-year-old single barrel picks that we did. In fact, one of them 2 years ago won World Whiskey Awards best single barrel bourbon. We had another one win that same award this year. Not sure what happened last year, but we're gonna keep trying. So yeah, the 6 and the 7s tend to really be spectacular, though. You guys have any feedback, any comments?
Yeah, it's really good. I know it's not helpful feedback, but I mean, I've had a few
No, that's the most.
same mash bills from other people, not to name other brands, and I won't. But yeah, no, this is a very good expression, I would say, for sure.
Yeah, well, we
Yeah,
try to
excellent.
model what we like. I'm glad you guys like it. But yeah, Kevin, your feedback is the best feedback I like to hear. Other than I just bought a case of it.
Well, I would say in this group, when that pick was at Village Liquor, there's probably 2 cases worth that are on this call. Or in this group, maybe a couple people missing from there, but man, it was like everybody's like, oh my God, you got to try this Tumbling Dice. It is amazing.
Well, thank you
Yeah,
all.
I got that same store pick from Danny, opened it up, had some, and then went right back out and got a second bottle. Cause I'm like, okay, I need a backup of this one.
You guys
High
are awesome.
Times.
So good.
High Times had a really good pick, and Victoria and I kept buying it until we couldn't get it anymore.
It's really amazing that it's 36% rye. I mean, you don't get that much rye spice. Like it's got a good bit of sweetness, but I think it's like really well balanced. Yeah, no, I really like it.
Yeah, I also, again, I find where it hits my tongue, I'm getting different flavors out of it, different, more predominant flavors. A little water changes it. It's such a flavorful, fun mash bill. And we also bottle it at 4 years old and 100 proof. And just as a reminder, you can tell the age by the numbers on the dice.
Huh.
I thought that was obvious, but apparently it's not.
It is totally not. I didn't even know that.
That's the first time I've heard that.
I had no idea.
That's cool. I didn't know that. That's cool. I like it.
That is
Cool, cool.
really cool.
Everyone's learned something tonight. Good.
It's a whiskey Easter egg is what it is.
Exactly. Again, I thought it was obvious, and I meet people all the time who are fans of the brand, and they're like, "Oh, I never noticed that."
I am now having a learning moment.
Excellent. There you
Yeah.
go. So there's a 6-year-old.
Yeah, this is that pick we were talking about from Village Liquor.
Cool.
Yeah, that the rye that we had from Village Liquor, Lori, oh my God, I should have gotten 2 bottles.
I got 3, so it's so good. And I'm gonna now search out the bourbon.
Well, we just tasted the bourbon.
Yeah, that's why I'm gonna go look for it because it's
Yeah,
delicious.
I'm waiting for the rye because, yeah.
All right. And you guys have one more sample?
Yeah, the rye.
Yeah, tumbling dice rye.
Okay. I am surprised you had that because it's brand new.
Vadim has ways.
I'm gonna guess that we sent it to him, but I don't know. So the tumbling dice rye, it's we just did that, and it's most likely a 11-barrel blend of 7-year-old rye. And I believe those are all in Total Wine up and down California, Washington, Nevada, and Arizona.
Yeah, the Tumbling Dice Rye just hit Total Wines around here recently, like probably in the last week.
Yeah, so that is the same rye whiskey that we use in the Senator. It's an extra year old.
But it doesn't have the barley in it.
It's got the barley. I mean,
Oh, it does?
Yep.
Okay.
Where does the Tumbling Dice name come from? Sorry if I missed that.
tumbling dice name. Where does that come from? Our first brand was Deadwood. And that has on the front label the aces and eights, dead man's hand. So we started with that and just sort of evolved into different forms of gambling that I'm not so good at. So I have to support that with my whiskey habit.
Hey, one time I made a full house out of aces and eights, so it's not always bad.
Well, it didn't end well for Wild Bill Hickok, apparently.
Before we all forget, everybody jump on camera, raise a glass to David and Proof and Wood. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Come on, hold your glass up.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, everybody smile for the camera.
Holding your glass. in
Okay,
front of my
you
face.
leaned into it, that's why.
Yeah, well, your phone.
Okay, I think I got one.
She always holds her glass in front.
It's always great when you guys don't unmute. It's fun to listen to you.
The hot mic moment. So the Tumbling Dice 7-year-old rye, it's not markedly different from the Senator, but it is this particular batch has got its own unique flavors to it. And again, if it is the blend that I think it is, it's got a really pronounced minty feel to it on the finish.
It had a lot of dill on the nose, which was like, oh, but
Not your thing.
not on the nose, but I got a little eucalyptus on the end on the palate, which is really nice to me.
Yeah, and that'll be like that's related to the mint.
Yeah, it kind of leaves you that effervescent feeling on your tongue after after a cough drop.
One of the other things we like to do is present everyone with a poll to see what they liked best about the evening's taste. So I'll let that fly, let you guys vote.
That's tough. I had two that were right up there and I gotta pick one, but oof.
Yeah, I mean,
You're allowed to buy them all though. So that's a cool thing. You're not limited to one.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
it's a
across the
tough call for
board,
the vote.
they were all very good. I enjoyed them all.
Glad you liked them. And again, it's part of, trying to have fun with it and showcase the different whiskeys and what we can do with them.
Dave, I didn't catch where are you coming to us from? Where are you at?
Today, I am in Connecticut, right outside New York. All my barrels live mainly in Kentucky. A few of them are still hanging out in Indiana.
Nice. We got one of our regulars that's not here tonight is actually out there as well. So cool.
Do you, excuse me, do you know if High Times will carry the new tumbling dice rye?
There's a couple of single barrels floating around right now that I don't know if I don't think that they've gotten one,
Okay,
but eventually we'll get it to them.
cool. I go there the most.
ooh. Okay, somebody hasn't voted. I think we're pretty close though. All right. So there's the end. Would you like to take a guess at what the favorite of the evening was?
I'd like to vote for all of them, so I'm not going to guess there.
No, you have to guess, David, and then you see the poll.
I have to guess.
That's,
Yes,
yes, you have to
yes,
guess,
yes,
yes.
yeah.
I'm gonna say the senator then.
Oh, so close. Cumberland Ice Bourbon got 7, and then the Polish Rye and the Senator both got 4.
The Polish rye was really good. I like that a lot.
And I guess you guys are all too fancy for roulette rye. I see how it is.
The others are just so good. I mean, that one's good too. But
Yeah, the roulette got a vote, and the cross border got a couple of votes. So
Cool.
Well, if
Well,
you would ask
and-
one I was gonna make a cocktail out of, it would be the roulette rye. I want to try making a paper plane with it. And that goes.
That
I
should
agree.
work.
The roulette's a great base.
And this group, tends to vote for like what do they enjoy the most that they're gonna drink neat. So one of those things, but we still go and buy all kinds of other stuff.
Cool. Variety, need it.
But if I were to go to the store and go out and buy any of these, it would be the Senator.
And then you also get a bottle of roulette for your friends who don't appreciate it.
But my son says, but I like this, I like the,
Tumbling Dice Rye, I really like it.
Cool. We'll make more.
They were all delicious. They were all, they all had different notes. They were all lovely. There isn't anything I can say about any of them that's negative.
I
And I
appreciate
usually can, so.
and I appreciate it. I have very thin skin. It would have been ugly. I would have broken down. But
Yeah, I'm sorry, I haven't made anybody cry in 15, 20 minutes, so it's okay.
She's usually really good at being negative, so, and critical.
She's my daughter, she knows.
it's more fun that way.
Yeah, it is. And well, I was a little dubious because I'm not a huge fan of Canadian whiskeys at all. And the cross-border jackpot was really a surprise to me. I've got little happy faces all over my notes. So,
That one is, I just like to reference that one as just being a lot of fun. The
that's
other-
true. Yeah.
The other Canadian, the 21-year-old Good Day, we also get a lot of people surprised that they like a Canadian whiskey.
Yeah, because most of the time they remind me of nail polish remover.
Uh-huh.
Hmm.
Well, I just bought 3 bottles of the Polish, so you guys better hurry up.
Where'd you get them, Jason?
I found them online, but Mission's got them, and I found a place that'll ship them to me.
I have the day off tomorrow. Yay.
Yeah, and definitely look out for the Polish rye finished in rum. That one's really tasty.
That's
Yeah, I
fascinating.
really like the Polish rye, but I'm gonna have to try and find a bottle because that was probably my second favorite after the.
That's the
company
one
they
I'm going to go
started.
look for tomorrow, darling.
Well, I
they-
can drink it at your house if I can't find it.
Yeah, I know.
David, the Polish rye finished in rum, that's not what we were drinking though. That's a different one, right?
No. You would know. It might even be a little overdone on the finish side. There's a lot of rum flavor in it.
What, and is that got a different name?
Mm-hmm. Hang on, I don't know if I have let's see. I'm gonna do this low tech.
Hey, we'll bear with you, no worries.
We literally just bottled that this week. All right. I don't know if this is gonna work, but we'll put the picture in front of the camera.
Oh, wow.
Oh, the globe.
Can you see that? I don't even
Yeah.
know. So that's a fun little label, but it's again, it's another whiskey that is meant to be enjoyed, and it was fun to make.
And that was it the Globe? Is that what we heard?
Yeah. So it's got Polish rye that was originally in French oak, shipped to Kentucky, finished in Jamaican rum barrels.
All the way around the globe, I understand.
Exactly. I try to keep it simple.
I may actually have to buy the second bottle of rye I've ever bought in my life.
Now we're talking.
Yep.
David, that's a huge compliment because Jane typically hates rye. I mean, everybody in this group knows, but that is like her least favorite of anything. And for her to say she's gonna buy a bottle, you did good.
Awesome. That's great to hear. Somebody asked where to find the Globe, the rye finished in rum. Pretty much any store that's carrying the Stranger should have access to it. And if you guys don't have it, Vadim could always pass on my email, and you guys can reach out anytime. I'm obviously happy to help you guys find bottles that you're looking for. Are most of you guys from California, or are you all over?
Most of us in California, but we have people everywhere.
Like, if he can ship anywhere, so some of us could be from somewhere else.
I'm soon to be back near DC, so if anyone needs things, I might know someone.
Oh, that Alec is from DC.
I am, but I have no liquor connections from my elementary and high school years.
Harold can go.
Well, you had a boring life.
Harold can go.
Obviously, you didn't go to Catholic school because, we all have those connections.
I have some
I mean,
connections.
My friends' connections were what we could steal out of our parents' liquor cabinet.
No, but Carol went and got me Carol got us an amazing Kilhoman bottle that I'd been hunting forever. She did. Sorry, our son is eating. I keep muting.
So is that the Globe, is that like the new thing that you guys are coming out with? You have more on the horizon that we should look out for?
The Globe will be the next one. what else do we have? Similar, we have our Canadian, the 21-year-old Canadian blended was called Good Day. I think those are all sold out, at least from my perspective, they're out in the market. And then we finished some of that 21-year-old Canadian in rum, and that one's called Good Day and Sunshine.
Well, that sounds like fun.
It's all fun.
So with all of this, do you have a favorite of all of your different expressions, or are they just too awesome to choose between?
Everything is evolving, and I think, as I mentioned before, I think the high rye bourbon mash bill is my favorite mash bill, but it's not like I drink that exclusively. And I bounce around between my own stuff, and I try to explore other people's stuff. Though probably, my favorite child might be the Vertigo blend. Really kind of one of the first examples that I was able to put in a bottle of something where the sum is greater than the parts, kind of thing.
Now, I'm terribly curious about that one now. So
We'll bring a chaperone and go to the store.
here we go. We all have to shop with chaperones now.
I'll be your chaperone.
So
Exactly.
medium term with the you talked about short and medium term, maybe doing some different things that, with the sourcing market kind of closing or getting stiffer, but a lot of new contract houses opening up, lots of new possibilities in the future. Are you gonna, kind of secure what you've got and kind of keep doing it, or you gonna start playing around and seeing what's out there?
Well, so somebody's onto what's going on. For the last year and a half, I've been kind of exploring from purchasing new make whiskey in Indiana to sources all over the country. So in the last 12 months, I've had new make rye made for me in California. I've had malt whiskey made in Colorado, bourbon and rye made in Ohio, bourbon in North Carolina, and then bourbon and rye in Kentucky and Tennessee. So all of that is relatively young and not yet kind of ready to be bottled stage. So things will change. There's an element of it's going to be more fun, more exciting, different things going on. I've got plenty of whiskey for the near term to keep our product line out there exactly as you know it, but it'll evolve.
Mm-hmm. No, that's neat.
David, what brought you into this field?
No one would hire me to do anything else. The short story is, career began more in the retail world, bartending, managing restaurants and bars. From there, I founded a marketing agency that worked exclusively with beverages around the country. We were pretty successful, had some fairly well-known big clients like Absolute Vodka, Anheuser-Busch, that kind of thing. And particularly you Hollywood types out there know that all actors, any successful actor thinks they can direct. So I started playing around, creating my own brands, and started with vodka, and I was drinking a lot more whiskey, and that led me to working with Mike, who became my partner in Redemption Rye. He had opened a little bottling facility. I spent a bunch of time down there, and early on in 2009, 2010, we, stumbled upon what's now MGP, and tasted some of that rye, and we're kind of blown away at how good it was at such a young age. Put it in a bottle as Redemption Rye. It was really a side project, and that just kind of exploded in ways we never imagined. And On that note, I mean, one thing about the whiskey business, the more successful you are, the broker you become, because you've got to constantly lay down whiskey for what you're projecting to sell in 4 years or whatever it is. So that's what led us to sell, because we couldn't grow anymore. But Proof and Wood is designed to be just a long-term project, and just constantly doing small and good things.
Well, I think you're doing a great job. Do you have any aspirations to do your own distilling?
I'm too lazy for that, but it's a challenge. There is a trade-off between investing in a still and investing in whiskey. So right now I'm focused on creating a good whiskey library and leaving the distilling to people who want to do that on a daily basis and can do it more efficiently than I probably would starting out. But you never know.
That's awesome. I love the open, honest answer. Just like, hey, this is where we're at, man.
That's all we're about. I mean, I can make up stories, but eventually you'll find me out.
Well, I can actually taste that in your productions. They're real honest, straightforward flavors with nuances that are very interesting. So good job.
Thank you.
Anybody else have questions?
No, but I will say this is like the first time in maybe 10 tastings that I've drank a lot of all of my stuff. I usually have drawers left over.
Good thing you got tomorrow off, huh?
Damn right, dude. Thank God. I'm planning on drinking all the rest of these when we're off this call.
Love it. Hey, David, one more question on that Vertigo. What percentage, do you know what the percentages were on the different ones that were in that blend?
Off the top of my head, no, but it's about 40 to 50% of the 25-year-old American Light. And the way that blend started, the 25-year-old blended light, I mean, extremely rare that there's an American whiskey that old. Also, because it's American Light, it's actually decent, right? If you have a 25-year-old bourbon, rye tends to age better, but a 25-year-old bourbon, the odds are it's not going to be good. There's some exceptions to that rule, but in general they get over oaked because we're using new charred oak at a 3 or 4 char, and it just can't age that long. And so with American Light, and if you guys don't know, American Light, it's a horrible sounding name. It was basically created in a boardroom by whiskey executives, I think in the late 60s, when they first started realizing that the light spirits, the vodkas, the gins, and the rums were hugely eating into their business. So let's make a light whiskey. And the idea was, instead of the limit on bourbon and rye is not to distill it higher than 160. I think American Light goes to 180. And a really oversimplification, a higher proof that you distill at, the closer you get to grain neutral. So a lower proof distillation will more likely give you the flavors of the actual grain. So when you get to light whiskey, you're getting something that's closer to vodka, so to speak. And then you put it in a used barrel, so you're not getting all those intense flavors that you get in a bourbon and an American rye. And so the positive again is that it aged a lot longer and it's got some really cool kind of old flavors to it. But overall, the American Light whiskey at 25 to me kind of felt very one note. And that's when I started adding ryes and other bourbons to see what we can get. And that became, again, great little bottle.
That's interesting because I really enjoy American light whiskeys, especially the ones that are done in port casks. Those
Okay.
kind, yeah.
Yeah, if you just
But-
do them in bourbon, it tends to get this like vanilla frosting. It's just it's sugar and vanilla, and that's kind of it. Which
Well,
but
I
when you
eat
blend
frosting
with
out of the
that-
can, so
Yeah,
who knows?
but when you blend with it, it does amazing things to
Mhm.
bring flavors together and make them creamy and
Right, and it's a great base. So yeah, if you're going to do a port finish, it's going to pick up a lot of flavor. My only challenge with doing finishes like that is not overdoing them. Then it's kind of no longer a whiskey what you're tasting.
Right. I can't say that I've ever had a 25-year-old American light whiskey though, so I need to expand my horizons. Jason, help me out here.
There's
How do you bottom up?
there's might be a handful of bottles of the 100 Seasons floating around.
The note-taking recommences.
100 Seasons, was that a proof in wood also?
Mm-hmm. In fact, it was the first. I think it was the first one that we bottled under proof and wood.
Thanks, Edgar. Now there's I have the page open, but not like 5 windows down. So
Well, our group is on it, man. Edgar already posted, there's some available at Mission Liquor.
So that is Seasons 2021, and 100 Seasons and Seasons 2021 are very different. 100 Seasons is the 25-year-old American light whiskey, and frankly, the Seasons 2021 is better. It's all the 100 Seasons is a $350 bottle. It's good, don't get me wrong, but I find it very one note. The Seasons 2021, I think we mentioned it earlier, the base of Seasons 2021 is 18-year-old Tennessee bourbon with very woody, and then balance that out with some, I think 8-9-year-old Kentucky corn whiskey and some 6-year-old Indiana bourbon.
you
Nice.
mentioned the Good Day earlier. They actually have some of that still at Mission.
Yeah, that's the 21-year-old Canadian.
Well, so
Interesting. I just revisited the Senator. And opening it up and everything, I get way more of the mint and dill. And then I get the barley at the very end. That little bit of nutty note. That's so interesting coming back to it.
Yeah, it's interesting how the barley sometimes pops up and sometimes doesn't in the different expressions. One of the reasons they use barley is rye is notoriously hard to work with, and the barley brings some natural enzymes to help break it down.
I've heard the rye is sort of sludgy when
Yep.
you're working with it.
And sometimes you'll pick up some almost smoky notes from the barley, but I'm not, again, they're not consistent.
Yeah, I'm kind of slowly going back through everything myself, and I definitely I hit the roulette again, and I was pleasantly surprised how well it opened up after it had been sitting for a while, and it is really nice. I can imagine, as everyone else was agreeing with you from before, that it would be a great cocktail base.
Yeah, it could stand on its own, but
Yeah.
again, it was made to be a cocktail.
it's interesting also going back like the Senator versus the Tumbling Dice Rye, because you said the Tumbling Dice Rye was it basically a year older, and the Tumbling Dice Rye has like just way more punch. Maybe the Senator's a little bit more balanced, but both fantastic. I mean, I'm struggling to figure out which one I like more.
Well, again, you can get them both. Well, the other fun thing that I like to do with the portfolio is especially that the core stuff that we do is all from the same distillery, and you can compare the different flavors from the different mash bills, and depending on where in your whiskey journey you are at different levels of helpful to try the roulette and our tumbling dice bourbon and see, this is like a clear difference between rye and bourbon. I get it. And you also see the similarities between rye and bourbon, because there is a lot, and the barrel plays a huge part in that. And you can see the different aging, what that does.
I have a marketing question. So you started in 2015.
Proof and Wood, yeah.
Proof and Wood started in 2015. And so how was your progression in your marketing? How did you get it into all the places you needed to get it into to get a good customer base?
So it's a good question. I think it's beyond marketing. I had relationships with a lot of good distributors around the country. And the core value of Proof and Wood was to put quality product in a bottle at a reasonable price. And the distributors I use around the country tend to be small to medium-sized distributors who care about what they're doing. And so there's a lot of communication between them and our retailers. And our retailers also the people who choose to carry us tend to be more about hand selling and more about taking care of their customers. So we're not huge, but we like to be in the right places. So the marketing aspect of it is we try to spend as little as possible on actual marketing. The marketing dollars go back into the product. So that's kind of how we look at the world.
That's really interesting. What's the Proof and Wood and Tumbling Dice? Why are they different? I mean, why are they different names?
So they're a little bit of an evolution. Proof and Wood was always the name of the company, and we started with Deadwood, and even we thought Deadwood was the core. Deadwood is we do a rye and a bourbon. Those are $20 to $25 a bottle. But Tumbling Dice seem to take more oxygen from the room. People know that. So we focused on those brands. And then generally we slowly evolved Proof and Wood as an actual consumer facing brand with the specialty editions. So now we feature Proof and Wood in the background on everything. And then the handful of limited time products actually go under the Proof and Wood name. There wasn't, there was a notion more than a plan when I started out, put it that way.
Well, it actually turned out to be a good plan. So there you go.
So far, so good.
So far, so good.
Man, David, I love it because before this tasting, I've heard of Proof and Wood. I knew Tumbling Dice because obviously one of our local guys has a pick there, or a few of them do. But some of the different expressions that you mentioned with Proof and Wood, like the Vertigo and some others, it was really cool to hear that story and understand it. And honestly, like when we first started, you were a little bit in that, like just being you and not really expressive or not this big sales guy, just kind of, just here I am. And This is one of my favorite tastings. I mean, definitely dig who you are, what you're about. When I ask you questions, like just the details that you shared with it has definitely been fun. I've learned a lot in the process. So kudos to you, man. I dig what
Well,
you're
thank you.
doing.
Appreciate that. And
Totally
keep it
agree,
going.
Shane. Yep, one of my favorite tastings, because,
Been a
yeah,
while,
he just laid it on the line.
Absolutely agree.
Cool. I'm glad that worked because I felt a little unprepared just jumping out of a car from the airport and. But
No,
here
you
we-
rock.
Finishing off my Polish rye.
I was gonna say you rocked it because, like I said, it just being you, pretty mellow, chill, and then especially your stuff, and so we started digging in, and some of the stuff you're sharing was fun. You answered Jason's question, so I mean Jason's the nerdiest of them all, so on point.
I think you're challenging Jason now. I don't know. He's going to come up with something.
There is no challenging Jason, really. He's superior.
He's
Along with
always got
Shane.
something in his bag. Look out.
Oh my God.
We're nice to Jason because he's also generous with samples.
I'm
And
smelling
he's far
my empty
away.
Polish
He's
glass
not,
right now.
he's not in our area. He's in, where are you, Jason?
I'm in Michigan.
Michigan, that's right. Where Traverse City lives.
Traverse City, they're very good friends of mine.
I enjoy their stuff too.
We like them as well, man. We did a
Mhm.
tasting and we have a bunch of their stuff.
Cool. Yeah, another fun thing about this business is we can be friends rather than mortal enemies with our competitors.
I think that's probably one of the best good points about the whole industry. Everybody seems to cheer everybody else on.
Most people do.
Yeah, and I mean that's on the business side of it, and then along with that, I mean all the people on this, most of the people in this group, we didn't know each other before this group, so I've made some great friends in the process, and it's been a blast. So it's really quite a cool thing. Definitely fun.
Cool, man. If we're not having fun, why are we doing it?
Indeed. Okay, well, I want to be respectful of your time because I know you're in Connecticut and you pretty much rolled off the airplane and came to us tonight. So unless someone else has another question, I want to say thank you so much, David, for joining us this evening, and we would love to have you back at some point.
Cool.
So, thank you so much, and I'm not going to kick anybody off. I actually know where the recording button is this time. So thank you everyone for joining us, and we'll see you on the next tasting.
Thank you. Absolutely my pleasure. And I appreciate you guys' comments and obviously your support through the years for the brands.
Thank you so much, David. This was great.
You're very welcome. Have a great night.
You
And by the
too.
way, also,
In Connecticut.
we're when you have more expressions, we're looking forward to the next tasting, and we got to sample some more.
Absolutely.
Put your team on it and we'll figure it out.
Yeah, Vadim's getting notes from tonight.
All right. Give them my best.
Yay!
All right.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Cheers.